Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Hockey Talk with TG podcast. I'm Ty Glenn. So, hopefully, you guys are having a great Monday. So, we got a few preseason games to recap for you. So, without further ado, we're going to get right into it. So, the preseason actually started on Saturday, September 21st. And it started with the Penguins taking on the Buffalo Sabres, which the Sabres, big blowout win against the Pittsburgh Penguins, winning by a total score of 7-3. So we actually saw two hat tricks in this game as well from J.J. Peterka and Jesse Puljujarvi. Hemi Jokiharju had one goal and two assists for the Buffalo Sabres. And we also got to see the preseason debut of Rutger McGroarty of the Pittsburgh Penguins. So his number is now number 2. I don't know what number was he wearing when he played at University of Michigan, but of course, he was acquired in that Penguins and Jets trade during the offseason, and he was traded over to the Pittsburgh Penguins for Braden Yeager. So, two young prospects right there. I can't wait to see what Rutger McGroarty does for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Unfortunately, he did not score in his preseason debut, but it was nice to watch him take ice on NHL stage for the first time, even if it is the preseason. Jesper Blomqvist had made 24 saves against the Buffalo Sabres, and followed by, let's see, who's the backup goalie? Followed by Philip Larson, who made 19 saves in replace of Jesper Blomqvist. So the Sabres, next game, they do face the Penguins today, I believe. No, actually it's Columbus. They face Columbus today at 4 o'clock p.m. Central Time. So that'll be a little bit of an early game because usually games don't usually come on at 4 o'clock p.m. unless it's like some type of weekday or like holiday or something. But yeah, so that will be the Sabres' next game against the Pittsburgh Penguins. That'll be the Sabres' next game against the Columbus Blue Jackets. And then Pittsburgh, on the other hand, faces Buffalo tomorrow night at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. Now I'm going to be moving on to the Sharks and Golden Knights. So didn't really want to recap all preseason games from Saturday despite there only being 3. But we're going to get into Sunday's preseason games now. So Macklin Celebrini scores in his preseason debut in the Sharks' 4-2 loss to the Golden Knights. He also notched the assist for 2 points in the night right there. Tyler Toffoli, another new acquisition for the San Jose Sharks, even though Macklin Celebrini was drafted by the Sharks. But Tyler Toffoli, he also scored for the Sharks in his debut. Mackenzie Blackwood made 16 saves for the Sharks before being replaced by Georgi Romanov, who made 17 saves midway through the second period. And another new goalie that the Sharks have got, Yaroslav Askarov, who should get a lot of playing time for San Jose because when he was drafted by Nashville, didn't really get that much playing time. I think he was in the AHL at that time, but he should get a lot of playing time in the crease for San Jose. For Vegas, Callahan Burke, Brett Howden, Thomas Urinan, and Tanner Pearson all scored for the Vegas Golden Knights, and Uranen, I don't know how to pronounce that last name, did have the game-winning goal in the second period. Akira Smith, who used to play for the New Jersey Devils, saved all 8 shots he faced in net before being replaced by Isaiah Saville, who made 10 saves midway through the second period. And of course, each team was playing its first game of the preseason. So, of course, the preseason started Saturday. Their preseason started today. So the Golden Knights, they head back home to take on the LA Kings at 9 o'clock p.m. Central Time. So this will be, I think, a tomorrow game because there is supposed to be a game on NHL Network today. And it's the LA Kings taking on Utah Hockey Club. So I think this will be a tomorrow game. Will be airing on NHL Network. The Sharks, on the other hand, will remain at home to take on the Anaheim Ducks Tuesday at 9 o'clock p.m. Central Time. Now we're going to be moving on to other preseason news. So Steven Stamkos, he scored in his preseason debut in the Predators' 6-2 loss over the Florida Panthers. So yesterday was a split squad game for both teams, of course. The they played earlier. Panthers won 3-2, and then later on they had a game, and then the Panthers won 6-2. So it was like a split squad game for both teams. I know that can seem confusing to some of you. It was confusing to me, but it was like a split squad game. So some players on the team got to play earlier, and then the other players got to play later. So it's like that. But the Panthers won both of them. And, of course, Steven Stamkos, he signed a 4-year contract deal with the Predators on July 1st after playing 16 seasons with the Tampa Bay Lightning. So it's going to have to take some time getting used to seeing Stammer in a Predators sweater, because I know we used to seeing him in a Lightning sweater. Now we're going to have to get used to seeing him in a Predators sweater. Sam Reinhart, Adam Boqvist, Josh Davis, and Patrick Gills each had a goal and assist for the Florida Panthers. Of course, Sam Reinhart had a 50-goal season, I believe, with the Florida Panthers. So he also had the game-winning goal in the Stanley Cup Final as well. Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final when the Panthers took on the Oilers. That he made it 2-1 in the second period. So he had the game-winning goal as well. So he's certainly great play to watch on the Florida Panthers besides Matthew Tkachuk and Sergei Bobrovsky and all the other players. Gustav Forsling and Jesper Boqvist each scored for the Panthers as well. And Sergei Bobrovsky and Chris Driedger, who's now back on the Panthers because he used to play for the Panthers before. And I think he went to Seattle. He's now back on the Panthers. But anyway, he and Sergei Bobrovsky each combined to make 24 saves in the blowout win. For Scott Wedgwood, new acquisition for the Nashville Predators, he allowed 4 goals in the first period, 3 of them being power play goals in his Nashville Predators debut, and he was replaced by Jacob Militov, who made 1 save. And the Predators, they head down to Tampa Friday to take on the Lightning at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. So we kind of get to see Steven Stamkos go up against this old squad right there. And then they'll face them again on Saturday at home at Bridgestone Arena at 7 o'clock p.m. Central Time. The Panthers will be on the road to take on the Lightning Wednesday at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. So before the Lightning face the Predators Saturday and Friday and Saturday, they'll face the Panthers. All right, so now we're going to be moving on to Utah Hockey Club. So they take home their first preseason win in franchise history. Logan Cooley had the game-winning goal in the third period, which he scored on a penalty shot with 1:17 to go in the third period. So that turned out to be the game winner. This game was not in Utah, by the way. This was in Iowa. I don't know why they didn't put it in Utah, but some preseason games are in other places. So, like, for example, the Blackhawks and Wild, they have a preseason game. And I think it's going to be at the Milwaukee Bucks Stadium at Fiserv Forum. So it's kind of like that. Anyway, Michael Carcone and Kevin Kuntanen scored for Utah Hockey Club, and Carl Vermelka made 19 saves. For St. Louis, Dylan Holloway, Anton Malmstrom, and Simone Robinson scored for them, so in the loss. And Joe Hofer stopped all 13 shots faced in the first period before being replaced by Vadim Zirenko, who made 3 saves in his debut. And the Blues, so far, they lost 2 straight preseason games, even though the preseason doesn't really matter, it doesn't really count, but they just lost 2 preseason games heading into the preseason. Of course, their first preseason game was Saturday against the Dallas Stars, and they lost 2-1. They lose 5-3 to the Utah Hockey Club. But the Blues traveled to Columbus to take on the Blue Jackets Wednesday at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. The Utah Hockey Club comes home to take on the LA Kings at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Time, and that will be today, and it will air on NHL Network. But moving on now, so Dustin Wolf certainly made his presence known, making 33 saves in his preseason debut. And, of course, it was a 6-1 win for the Calgary Flames over the Seattle Kraken. So he's certainly a rookie prospect to watch. So despite him being a goalie, he's certainly a rookie prospect to watch. Could probably be one of the top 10 players to be nominated for the Calder Trophy. Of course, my number 1 pick to win the Calder Trophy is Matei Michikov. who absolutely had a great preseason debut against the Washington Capitals, but I'll get into that later on in the show. Adam Clapper scored twice. Matt Coronado had a goal and 2 assists, and Clark Bishop had a goal and an assist for Calgary. Of course, Jermaine Poirier and Martin Frk was also on the score sheet for Calgary. Samuel Honzek and Hunter Brusevich, hopefully I pronounced that last name right. Of course, some of these last names are hard to pronounce for hockey. But they each had 2 assists. And Nathan Villeneuve had the only goal for Seattle Kraken. Of course, he was drafted in the second round of this year's 2024 NHL draft. He was the number 63rd pick for Seattle. And Philip Grubauer made 15 saves in net through 2 periods before being replaced by Alexei Stekov, who made 6 saves for the Seattle Kraken. And each team was playing their first game of the preseason. Of course, Calgary plays Edmonton Monday in a split squad game at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Time. And then the Kraken head up to Vancouver to take on the Vancouver Canucks. That will be tomorrow at 9 o'clock p.m. Central Time. And that game will be on NHL Network. And speaking of games that was on NHL Network, so yesterday, Carter Zakachuk scored 2 minutes and 37 seconds into overtime, and the Senators 6-5 overtime win over the Toronto Maple Leafs. So certainly a wild game between the Sens and the Leafs. Battle of Ontario right there. Cole Reinhardt had 2 goals and 2 assists. Jan Jenik had a goal and 3 assists. And Donovan Sebrango and Adam Gaudette also scored for Ottawa. And Matt Sagard made 32 saves in net for the Ottawa Senators. Max Pacioretty, Leafs preseason debut. He had 2 goals and 1 assist, so certainly making his presence known as well. Matthew Nice, Austin Matthews, and William Nylander also scored for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and John Tavares had 3 assists. Fun fact, this was Austin Matthews' first goal as captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs, because during the offseason we got to see a switch up and a change of captain. So it was John Tavares who was the captain of the Leafs at first, but then it was handed over to Austin Matthews. So Austin Matthews gets his first preseason goal as captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And, of course, it was nice to see Max Pacioretty on the score sheet as well, because he did sign a PTO, which is a professional tryout with the Toronto Maple Leafs during the offseason, I believe. Joseph Woe made 20 saves in net before being replaced by Matt Murray, who made 8 saves midway through the second period. And each team was playing this first preseason game of the year. And they will face each other tomorrow night as well. That'll be at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. So it will be another back. Well, I wouldn't consider it back-to-back because they played each other yesterday. But Tuesday, they're going to be playing each other as well. Jacob Markstrom made 17 saves in his Devils preseason debut in a 4-2 loss to the New York Islanders. And, of course, he was traded over to the Devils by the Calgary Flames for Kevin Ball and a first-round pick in the 2025 NHL Draft. This was back on June 19th, so this was, I think the Stanley Cup Final was still going on. Yeah, the Stanley Cup Final was still going on, or it was probably the conference final. I think it was the Stanley Cup Final because usually that starts in June. So this was during the Stanley Cup Final that he was traded over to the New Jersey Devils by the Calgary Flames. And Brendan Dillon also made his debut for the Devils after signing a 3-year contract deal that was back on July 1st, so this was during the offseason. Nico Hischier and Jesper Bratt each had a goal and an assist for the Devils, and Kadem Deacon scored the go-ahead goal early in the third period for the New York Islanders, so he most likely had the game-winning goal right there. And, of course, each team was playing its first preseason game. But both teams will be on the road Tuesday, so the Islanders head to MSG, Madison Square Garden, to take on the New York Rangers at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. And the Devils head up to Montreal to take on the Montreal Canadiens Tuesday at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. So it will be a road game for both teams tomorrow night. Now we're going to get into the Flyers and Capitals. So Matev Michikov, we got to see him in a Flyers jersey. Made his preseason debut for the Flyers, notching only 2 assists. I wish he would have got on the score sheet, but he got 2 assists in his preseason debut for the Flyers in a 6-2 win over the Capitals. So, of course, I'm predicting that he will win the Calder Trophy come by the end of the season, and he should be on that first line with the Philadelphia Flyers as well. So can't wait to watch him make his official NHL debut, because usually preseason doesn't count. And, of course, he signed his entry-level contract deal with the Philadelphia Flyers on July 1st after his contract with SKA St. Petersburg was terminated in the KHL, so Continuo Hockey League. So his contract was terminated there, and he signed an entry-level contract during the offseason with the Philadelphia Flyers, and he was drafted 7 overall in the first round of the 2023 NHL Draft. We also got to see Joel Farabee. He had a goal and 3 assists. Morgan Frost had 2 goals and assists for Philly, and Bobby Brink scored twice for the Flyers. And Ivan Fedotov and Carson Barneson combined for 19 saves for the Philadelphia Flyers. I think they had a shootout game afterwards as well, which kind of confuses me because the Flyers had won 6-2, and then I think it was saying both teams had agreed to do a go to a shootout game. So that was what happened in that game. And Andrew Christo and Ivan Moroshenko scored for the Washington Capitals. And Hunter Shepard and Clay Stevenson made it 22 saves in total for the Washington Capitals. Of course, it was the preseason debut for both teams. And both teams will also be on the road. So the Philadelphia Flyers head to Montreal to take on the Montreal Canadiens. I think this game will come on it comes on today at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. And then the Capitals head to Beantown to take on the Boston Bruins tomorrow at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. And that game will be on NHL Network. So the preseason games for today, there's only 5 preseason games today. Of course, the Flames and Oilers, they have a split squad game, so I'm not really going to count that as 6, so I'm just going to say 5. So the Blue Jackets, they will take on the Buffalo Sabres at 4 o'clock p.m. Central Time, followed by the Flyers taking on the Montreal Canadiens at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. Flames and Oilers already mentioned that they had a split squad game. Of course, both games will be coming on at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Time. I'm not really counting that as 6 preseason games because it's a split squad game. And also both teams are playing at the same time. So I'm not really going to count that as 6. Dallas Stars will head to Colorado to take on the Colorado Avalanche at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Time. So it will be a rematch of their second round series that happened this year back in the spring during the 2024 Stanley Cup playoffs. And then the night will end with the LA Kings heading to Utah to take on Utah Hockey Club. That will come on at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Time, and this will air on NHL Network. So you guys will get to see Utah Hockey Club for the first time on home ice before, opening night. It's not official because the official game on home ice will be against the Chicago Blackhawks. That will come on opening night of the regular season. But for the first time, I'm not really going to count it since it's the preseason, but you guys will get to see Utah Hockey Club take center ice for their first preseason game. Of course, they had their first preseason game yesterday, but that was in Iowa. That was not on home ice, but they will be on home ice tonight when they take on the LA Kings. All right, guys, so that is going to do it for this show. So thank you guys for tuning in as always. I really do appreciate it. Of course, only 2 weeks until the regular season starts. So the regular season starts Tuesday, October 8th. So just another 2 weeks, and then we will get to see some regular season hockey. Can't wait for that. But in the meantime, we still got the preseason going on. So at least that'll be like something to look forward to, even though it's not the regular season just yet. But got some preseason hockey. That's not bad at all. But anyway, hope you guys have a great rest of your day. God first as always. Be blessed. And I'll see you guys Wednesday for another episode of the Hockey Talk with TG Podcast. Take care.